We provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Tonight, new appointments. Provinces of Uva, Sabaragamuwa and Northern receives new governors. However, the position in the south yet to be filled. Another committee. President Maithripala Sirisena appoints committee members to receive suggestions on restructuring the national carrier Sri Lankan Airlines. Budget 2019. The government hopes to present a new budget on the 5th of next month and hopes to increase its revenue to 17%. And stars galore. Queen's biopic Bohemian Rhapsody wins big at the 76th Golden Globe Awards last night in Los Angeles. All that and much more coming up tonight, Monday, the 7th of January 2019.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9.
මේ උත්සව සමයේ ස්මාර්ට් ඇන්ඩ්‍රොයිඩ් තාක්ෂණයෙන් එන සිංග විස්ටා TV එකක් මිලදී ගන්නා ඔබට හිත පිරෙන්න වාසි රැසක් ඕනෑම සිංග ප්‍රදර්ශනාගාරයකින්.
Divari Amawata and Mahesh Jani. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Very good evening and welcome to First at 9 right here on Ada Derana 24, Sri Lanka's news channel. Good evening, Indivari.
Good evening, Mahesh. And indeed, our headline story, the 76th Golden Globe Awards. Were you able to catch it?
Yeah, indeed. Managed to catch the first glimpse of it, but there was a surprise. The whole story about the Queen's biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody, won big last night, which was a surprise.
Quite an interesting and iconic story.
Indeed. And its star, Rami Maliki, was also surprised to win the Best Actors award. We will have the full report later on in the bulletin, but we will start off with local news.
Local news, and yes, as we featured last Friday, the story and an in-depth discussion on President Maithripala Sirisena's decision to appoint a new committee to obtain suggestions on the restructuring process of Sri Lankan Airlines and make recommendations. True to his word, the head of state today indeed appointed his new committee. The 12-member committee will be chaired by State Minister of Finance Iran Vikramaratne, and it is expected to produce a report of recommendations in 2 weeks' time.
Now, the national carriers restructuring has been an on and off topic within the last several years. With the appointment of this latest committee, we once more ask the question, is this a sign that our national carrier will undergo a restructuring process soon?
President Maithripala Sirisena today appointed a new committee to obtain suggestions on restructuring the national carrier Sri Lankan Airlines and make recommendations. The 12-member committee chaired by State Minister Iran Vikramaratne will include Dr. Harsha De Silva, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, Dr. Dharmaratne Herath, Professor D.B.P.H. Disa Bandara, V. Kanaga Sabapati, L.S.I. Jayaratne, Viraj Dayaratne, Mahin Gopallava, Vasanta Kumarasiri, Ajit Amarasekara and Thisuri Vanniyarachchi. All parties, including members of the public, will have the chance to forward recommendations on how to improve the service of Sri Lankan Airlines from today onwards. The committee will have 2 weeks to deliberate those suggestions and produce a report containing necessary recommendations to the President. The head of state stated on Friday that any further action taken regarding the national carrier will be based on the recommendations made by this committee.
Well, President Maithripala Sirisena appointed 3 more new governors today. Accordingly, the provinces of Uva, Sabaragamuwa and Northern received new governors, with the highlight being the appointment of the chief of an election monitoring body, Kirti Tenakon, today.
Now, with today's round of appointments, 8 out of 9 provinces now have new governors. However, the vacancy in the southern province remains to be filled.
New governors were appointed for the provinces of Uva, Sabaragamuwa and Northern by President Maithripala Sirisena today. Accordingly, Kirti Tenakon, who was the Executive Director of Election Monitoring Body CAFE and Centre for Human Rights and Research, was appointed the governor for Uva province. Meanwhile, senior lecturer Dr. Dhamma Disanayake took oath before the President as the governor of Sabaragamuwa province. The position was earlier held by Niluka Ekanayaka. Dr. Suren Raghavan was made the governor of the Northern Province, and the position was previously held by Reginald Kure, who recently came out refuting claims that he is in support of a faction which is against the president. Appointment of governors to the Western, Central, North Central, Northwestern and Eastern provinces were done by the president last Friday, and the Southern province continues to be without a governor, the only province to be so.
Well, as we expect the appropriation bill for the 2019 fiscal year to be presented to Parliament on the 5th of February, Parliament has set aside a month-long debate for the budget, following which its proposals will be presented on the 5th of March. The third reading of the budget will commence on the 13th of March, and the final vote is to take place on the 4th of April. Incidentally, this will be Finance Minister Mangala Samaravira's second budget, and is expected that some ambitious targets will be featured through this year's delayed appropriation bill. The Finance Ministry said that one of the main objectives of the budget for the rest of 2019 is to increase government revenue to 17% of GDP and to manage to shrink the budget deficit to 3.5% of GDP. The deficit target is in line with the government's plan, which was announced in 2017. However, the government has failed to hit its previous deficit targets, with the 2018 target of 4.6%, likely to be about 5% according to the central bank. The Finance Ministry said in a statement earlier that the government looks to maintain debt to GDP ratio at 70% and limit recurrent expenditure to 15% of GDP, and also limit capital expenditure to just 3.5% of GDP through budget 2019. Budget allocations for ministry expenditure, meanwhile, will be based on the respective ministries' action plans for projects and programs to be implemented in the year. And the Finance Ministry also noted that ministries have been instructed to limit their expenditure proposals to projects with active plans, as government expenditure will be limited during this fiscal year.
Now, in this backdrop, the opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa insists that the government's budget document should be a people-oriented one, which gives concessions to people, whilst being critical of the government's borrowings over the past 3.5 years. The former president was of the opinion that relief to public cannot come soon enough. Also talking about the polarizing topic of the proposed new constitution, the opposition leader urged the fellow members of the House to refrain from putting their hands up in support of it.
People cannot be deceived in this country this way because they're intelligent. They say we borrowed funds, but anyone can see why we did so. And some of this borrowed money is still there. But today, they borrowed money, looted the central bank, and no one knows what they've done with that money. In 3.5 years, they have borrowed the same amount of money we borrowed during our tenure of 9.5 years. The budget is to be presented in Parliament. I asked the government to make it a budget based on concessions for the people. They should reduce commodity prices and increase salaries in the public sector. They're also going to bring a new constitution. We must ask everybody, including the SLFP and UNP parliamentarians, not to cast their vote in favour of this proposed constitution.
UPFA parliamentarian Dala Salahap Peruma laments politicians who are rejected by the public during elections being given a path to parliament via the national list. Addressing a public gathering in Mathura yesterday, the parliamentarian was highly critical of national list MPs being given cabinet portfolios.
Some accuse the president that he did not treat them well. Who are these people? They're the ones who have been appointed to Parliament through the national list even after being defeated in elections. The fault committed in Parliament was to appoint people to the House who were rejected by the people and then being given cabinet positions. There are 13 people in Parliament who came through the national list. Will such a country have a future? They have already started infringing on media. It is already happening with Derana and Hiru. Let's even welcome Sajid if it means defeating Ranil. Harun Fernando says that even though Manusha is not given a ministerial position, Manusha will assist him in duties of his ministry. This government has cabinet ministers, deputy ministers, state ministers, non-cabinet ministers as well as illicit ministers. This government will never move forward. The president desperately wants to end this government, which is servile to imperialists and is intent on selling off state assets, and we are ready to stand with the president to oust Ranil.
And we have more news coming up after this short commercial break. Do stay with First at 9 on Other Derana 24.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, non-cabinet Minister of Science, Technology and Research Sujeeva Senasinghe today said that a presidential election will be called before a general election. The minister's comment came as he responded to questions posed by a journalist after a meeting held at the UNP headquarters today.
A presidential election. If we sort out the provincial council system, we can call a provincial council election. We prefer either way. It should be discussed with all parties in parliament. We have suggested it, but these unions do not last long. And I warned them of this at the inception. It might have happened had Sarath Fonseca come to power as well. I am of the view that the leader of the party in power should become the president. Both of them are good, even myself.
Well, residents of Kinya in the Trincomalee district claim that their cattle are dying due to a disease unidentified by veterinary authorities. The claim is, however, rubbished by Regional Director of the Department of Livestock and Health, the Eastern Province. Dr. M.A. Faris rejects the notion of a mystery disease causing the death of cattle and says that a simple case of lack of food is behind the death of livestock in the area.
Dairy farmers in the Trincomalee district claim that animals are dying due to a disease unrecognized by relevant authorities over the last 2 months. Farmers charge that among the areas affected by the mystery disease are Kinya, Surangal, Tandalkadu and Sunbiaru. Residents of these areas say that over 150 heads of cattle, including buffaloes, have been succumbing to untimely deaths during the last 2 months.
කිරිකවිවරන් කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට කේම නැති නිසා තමයි මරනවා කියලා. නමුත් අපිට සැකයක් තියෙනවා ඒක මොනවා හරි ලෙඩක් හැදිලා මරනවද?
Given the situation, Chairman of the Kinya Pradeshya Sabha H.M. Saifuddin said that the local authority has taken precautionary measures until the authorities get to the bottom of the matter.
The Kinya Pradesh Sabha have decided to close down the slaughterhouse for 10 days following the death of several cattle. The cause of death of the cattle has not been detected yet. Experiment of the dead cattle have been sent for medical test. This decision was made in conjunction with the Kinya Urban Council, Sura Sabha and the civil society. All butchers, shopkeepers and the public are hereby requested to cooperate with us.
Despite outcry from livestock farmers in the Eastern Province pointing to a mysterious disease causing their cattle to die, Regional Director to the Livestock and Health Department of the province, Dr. M.A.M. Farsi, brushed aside the claim. He said that the death of cattle in the area cannot be caused by a mystery illness, but highlighted lack of adequate amounts of food as the cause. He added that his department has already advised livestock farmers to ensure that their cattle are given enough food.
Let's move on to business news now. Colombo Stock Exchange announced that it is amending its listing rules to enable listings and tradings of shares of foreign companies on its multi-currency board. Accordingly, foreign firms will be permitted to list shares on the CSE's multi-currency board denominated in a currency approved by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
The statement by the stock exchange said it also changed its automated trading rules and central depository system rules to allow trading in shares of foreign firms. Trading in shares of listed foreign firms will initially be restricted to non-resident investors with an account in the offshore banking unit of a licensed commercial bank in Sri Lanka and operating through a custodian bank in the CDS. The shares are aimed at attracting firms already listed in overseas exchanges and seeking a secondary listing.
Let's take you to the Colombo Stock Exchange. The market's main index fell 0.74% to settle at 6,022.99 today. Turnover was at 405.1 million rupees, less than half of last year's daily average of 834 million rupees, as investors awaited political cues after turmoil in the country. Foreign investors were net sellers of 205.9 million rupees worth of shares, and they have been net sellers of 13.7 billion rupees since late last year. We have a brief update of the day's market performance by Nisansala Kurupumudali of First Capital Holdings.
The market ended in red, reverting back to the negative sentiment, mainly dragged down by Ceylon Tobacco and John Keells. Turnover and volume improved compared to the previous day. A net foreign outflow was witnessed amidst high foreign participation. In the bond market, the secondary market yield curve remained broadly unchanged while the overall market witnessed thin volumes. Limited activities were witnessed on short to mid-tenor maturities dominated by the 2021 and 2023 maturities and 2025 and 2026 maturities.
And in the currency market, helped by mild dollar inflows, the Sri Lankan rupee saw higher recovery today after hitting a record low last week. On Thursday, the local currency plunged to its lowest of 183 against the US dollar. However, the rupee recovered today to end at 182.30 to 40 compared to 182.60 to 80 in the previous session. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day.
Let's move on to international news now. 2018 marked a bitter trade war between the United States and China, leading to damaging effects of the global economy. Now, last month, however, leaders of these global powers agreed in Argentina to draw a 90-day truce in their trade war. This is why a U.S. delegation led by Deputy U.S. Trade Representative Jeffrey Jarish sat down for a two-day discussion with the Chinese side for trade negotiations in Beijing today.
Well, this was the first face-to-face negotiation since Chinese President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump drew their truce on the trade war. The two sides had discussed how to implement the consensus reached by Xi and Trump on the sidelines of the 13th G20 summit last month.
Meanwhile, a U.S.-guided missile destroyer had sailed near the disputed island in the South China Sea in what China called a provocation as U.S. officials joined the talks in Beijing. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lu Kuang said that the conduct of the U.S. ship had violated China's and international law, and China had lodged stern representations. China urged the United States to immediately cease such provocations, adding that it had sent military ships and aircrafts to identify and warn off the ship.
And relations between decades-long former regimes, or rather enemies, United States and North Korea, seem to be further strengthening. US President Donald Trump has told reporters in Washington, D.C. that a location for another summit with North Korea is currently being negotiated. Trump had also said that the United States had a very good dialogue with North Korea, adding that he had indirectly or spoken with Kim Jong-un. Trump met with the North Korean leader in June last year, the first such meeting for a sitting US president. However, no tangible progress has been achieved so far on the main goal of talks, that is denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. It is in this backdrop that Trump said that the sanction on North Korea would remain in full force and effect until the United States saw very positive results.
While thousands of people were stung by a vast number of blue bottle jellyfish that were pushed ashore in the city of Queensland in Australia, forcing the closure of swim spots. Although blue bottle stings are painful but typically not life-threatening, it is reported that over 2,600 people were threatened over the weekend as a result of the jellyfish stings. The latest incident is reported in a backdrop where about 13,000 stings were recorded in the past week, 3 times more than in the corresponding period last year. Most incidents took place in Queensland, heavily populated Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast regions where unusually strong winds had pushed the jellyfish colonies towards the beaches.
And we have more coming up after this short break. Do stay with us.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
On to the National Rugby League. The CHNFC managed to record a stunning 31-28 victory over last year's runners-up Navy Sports Club in the second round game of the Rugby League played at the Racecourse grounds in Reed Avenue yesterday. At half-time, both teams were on a tie with 14 points on board. CHNFC Samuel Madhuanta knocked a late penalty to help with the game against Navy, 31-28.
In cricket, Virat Kohli says captaining India to their first Test series victory in Australia is the proudest moment of his career. Now, the 2-1 series win was confirmed when the 5th day of the 4th Test in Sydney was washed out by rain and the match was drawn. The Indian captain went on to say that the series win is by far his biggest achievement. Australia went into the final day of the series with little hope of achieving the victory they needed to win the Test and draw the series. They were due to resume their second innings on 6 for no loss, having been forced to follow on at home for the first time in 30 years after being bowled out for 300 in reply to the tourists' first innings total of 622 for 7 declared. But no play was possible as India, who first toured Australia in 1947-48, celebrated a famous victory. Well, in the 2019 award season was kicked off yesterday with the first major award show, the Golden Globes. The red carpet was very different from 2018, where all black look was on the red carpet. It was portrayed by celebrities in support for the Me Too movement that roiled Hollywood.
The colour returned to the carpet this year. The sentiments were still there as stars wore bracelets and pins in support of the Time's Up movement against sexual harassment and gender inequality in the film industry. Another change in Hollywood in the past year has been representation of Asians in cinema, which was also shown shown by success of the Golden Globe nominated film Crazy Rich Asians, which excelled at the US box office.
I watched that movie and it was really nice to see all the Asian cast. Now, last year we witnessed a powered-packed speech by Oprah, and this year it was Sandra Oh who made a powerful statement about racial representation in the film industry during the opening minutes of the awards, as she became the first Asian woman ever to host the show. The Golden Globes gave Queen musical Bohemian Rhapsody its top prize in an unexpected victory over musical romantic drama A Star Is Born.
And with that, here are some of the highlights from the 76th Golden Globes.
It is one of Hollywood's biggest nights of the year, as the Golden Globe Awards to honor film and TV were handed out in Hollywood. Proceedings kicked off with Brooklyn Nine-Nine star Andy Samberg and Killing Eve star Sandra Oh co-hosting the show at the Beverly Hills in Los Angeles. Oh closed the introduction on an emotional note.
I wanted to be here to look out into this audience and witness this moment of change. And I'm not fooling myself. I'm not fooling myself. Next year could be different. It probably will be. But right now, this moment is real. Because I see you. And I see you. All these faces of change. And now, so will everyone else.
As the formalities began, Michael Douglas was the first winner of the night, as he was awarded Best Performance by an Actor in a Television Series, Musical or Comedy for his performance in The Kominsky Method.
Rachel Brosnahan!
Best Performance by an Actress in a Television Series, Musical or Comedy was won by Rachel Brosnahan for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Richard Madden and Sandra Oh were the next big winners of the night, with Madden winning the Golden Globe for Best Performance by an Actor in a Television Series Drama for Bodyguard, and Sandra Oh winning for Killing Eve. Oh is the first Asian to do so in almost 40 years.
I'd like to thank my mother and my father. Oma, Appa! 사랑해요. Thank you, everyone.
Regina King.
The Golden Globe for the Best Actress in a Supporting Role in Any Motion Picture was won by Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk. Golden Globe for the Best Television Series Drama was clinched by The Americans. It was a bit upsetting for the fans, though A Star Is Born was a hit with critics, and at the box office, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association didn't celebrate the film as much as hoped. At the 76th Annual Golden Globes, Bradley Cooper's directorial debut won only one award of its 5 nominations.
The music and lyrics of Shallow, when A Star Is Born.
Hillary Lindsay, all the amazing people who wrote on this soundtrack.
The Golden Globe for the Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy was won by Green Book. Olivia Colman won the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy for her role in The Favourite, beating Constance Wu and Emily Blunt. Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy went to Christian Bale for Vice.
In Vice.
Roma, Mexico.
The Golden Globe for the Best Director Motion Picture was awarded to Alfonso Cuarón for Roma.
Rami Malek.
Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama was awarded to Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody.
To Queen. To you, Brian May. To you, Roger Taylor. I love you, you beautiful man. This is for and because of you, gorgeous. Mwah.
Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama was awarded to Glenn Close for her performance in The Wife.
I feel what I've learned through this whole experience is that, you know, women, we're nurturers. That's what's expected of us. We have our children, we have our husbands if we're lucky enough, and our partners, whoever. But we have to find personal fulfillment. We have to fill our, follow our dreams. We have to say, I can do that, and I should be allowed to do that.
The Queen biopic Bohemian Rhapsody defeated A Star Is Born to clinch the Golden Globe for the Best Motion Picture Drama.
And in the very another surprise was Glenn Close winning Best Actress.
Certainly, it was great to catch the 76th Golden Globe Awards. But if you missed any of our stories, do not forget to log on to www.otherderana.lk and also follow us on our social media sites. I'm Indivaria Motta.
And I'm Mahesh Johnny. Have a very good night.